Let's talk about the biggest potential surprises for the Texans in 2025. Guys who may or may not make the team, things that could happen for the first time ever. How much would they surprise you? The surprise game live in the locker room.
It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on.
It is the locker room number one source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. We got the stick mic because we're going to play a little game. Let me know how it sounds. I haven't used this in a while, but today we're going to play the surprise game. We're going to go through things that could or may not surprise us involving the Houston Texans in 2025. And there's a few things that are team goals. There's a couple things that are individual goals or individual possibilities. And we're going to play the surprise game and break down how much these would or would not surprise you. Right off the top on the soup, per the usual.
Swarm.
HDAV traveler swarming to the soup out there in Austin, hippieing it up, doing what he do out there. Appreciate you for being here. Let's play a little game of surprise. And if you want to submit your surprises in the chat, start your comment with the word surprise, and we'll try to get to that if it's a worthwhile proposal. And you can even go non-Texans if you want. It is that time of the year. It's June. Must be a slow news day. I think this is kind of a slow time. There's a little bit of a slow time between the draft. I think this obviously is a little bit of a slow time. But let's start with something that's never happened in the history of the Houston Texans franchise. The Texans making the AFC title game in 2025. Would that surprise you? For me, it would not surprise me. They've been a game away from that the last 2 years with DeMeco Ryans. And I think the key to this, and I think the thing that you feel best about is the defense. And I think this defense can take a lot of steps. I would assume that this offense is going to be coached better. Does that mean it's going to be an elite offense? Perhaps not. But would it surprise me if the Texans were one game better than they've been the last 2 years? No, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm not surprised, motherfucker.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, would it surprise me if they didn't? No. But it's not like it's too far-fetched to think that would happen. That's not really a surprise for me if they make the AFC title game. Would it surprise me if they didn't win the division? Not really. Wouldn't surprise me. There's about a 2-game gap there. But as far as making the AFC title game, the answer to that here in the surprise game is no, I would not be surprised. Next one. And y'all know I've been buying the stock. A lot of people were buying the stock last year. Damn, it was expensive. It cost a grip last year to buy that stock, and a lot of you went broke because you bought it. The man who DeMeco Ryans insists will be ready for training camp. Apparently, DeMeco can say when guys are going to be ready to go. Now, this guy's been resting for the most part for a large portion of the season. It's a big of last season. It's a big year for him. Surprised or not, would you be surprised if Christian Harris on this defense that we think is going to be so good, would you be surprised if Christian Harris had the breakout year, kind of a delayed fuse, the breakout year that many anticipated last year, a year later? Would it surprise you? I think there's a couple of things that factor into this. I think there's a couple of things that factor into this. Number one is that it would be somewhat surprising if Christian Harris was on the field the whole season. We really haven't seen that. So that would be a little bit of a surprise. But let's just pretend that just like Derek Stingley last year, when he was a year away from getting paid, that Christian Harris is on the field the strong majority of the games for the first time in his career. Would him being a top 5 player on this defense be the most surprising thing in the world? Let's look at the guys that are clearly, unquestionably in front of Christian Harris. Derek Stingley is one of the best corners in the game, so he's going to be your best player on defense if it's not Will Anderson, whose arrow is pointing up and he's already a Pro Bowl caliber player. You also have Danielle Hunter, who's coming off a Pro Bowl season. So that's 3. Kamari Lassiter, CJ Gardner-Johnson. Do we think Azeez Al-Shire is that guy? I don't think To'o is going to be top 5 guy. It's not too crazy to think that Christian Harris, if healthy, as one of the more athletic linebackers on this squad, with what we saw from him a couple of years ago. Again, this is a big-ass if. It's a massive if. But if Christian Harris is healthy, I don't think it's too far-fetched to think that he could be a top 5 player on a really, really good defense. So it would not surprise me. Maybe I'm a little too high on my penny stock. And now that I've bought all that Christian Harris penny stock, I'm getting a little bit overconfident with it, which tends to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I'm not surprised, motherfucker.
At all. Wouldn't be surprised at all. On the chat, couple of surprises. Mike, this is a good one. He says, surprised the Texans traded Kenyon Green for a player that can actually play football. So you're saying you're surprised, not a surprise question. I don't think you're getting the theme here. Next one from HDAV. We'll get to the offensive line for sure. Scotty Small says 14, surprise EJ Speed is a Pro Bowler. Yeah, that would be shocking, to be honest with you. I don't anticipate that happening. I think maybe he can be a good rotational guy at linebacker, whenever called upon, perhaps perform at a good level, special teams. But yes, EJ Speed as a Pro Bowler would be shocking. Misses too many tackles. He's not a full-time linebacker. He's been one for the Colts. That's not really what he is. He's a reserve linebacker. Same cost pretty much that their reserve D linemen get. I think it was $4 million with the incentives. He's a reserve guy. So that would be a massive surprise if EJ Speed is a Pro Bowler. Yeah, that would be insane. That would be absolutely crazy if that went down. Next surprise. Texans having the best defense in the NFL. I think they're going to be top 5. I think this is going to be a top 5 defense. I'm not going to try to sell you on the offense. I think this is going to be a top 5 defense. They're 2 points away from being top 5 in scoring defense. They already don't give up a ton of yards. The arrow's pointing up. DeMeco Ryans is doing his thing. I think this team is going to lean on its defense. We kind of saw that last year. So the Texans having the best defense in the NFL. I'm sure Philadelphia, Baltimore, they probably have something to say about that, but crazier things have happened than a team with the best edge duo, arguably the best corner duo, and a lot of other intriguing pieces having the best defense in the league. And, oh, by the way, a defensive-minded coach who's one of the most respected defensive minds. So, Nate Diaz, say it for me.
I'm not surprised, motherfucker.
All right, so not overly surprised if that happened. This next one is the most polarizing guy on the roster right now. Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz being as productive as he was in 2023. And you bring up the stats, and this is always something that I find funny because I think you can make stats dance in a lot of ways. But if you watch every snap of a team, then you should have a decent grasp of statistics, misleading statistics, statistics that don't tell the whole story. That's part of covering a team. That's part of being a fan of a team. And if I was just some jamoke, like if Dalton Schultz were on the Colts and I pulled up these stats, I would say, well, it wasn't as much of a fall off as Texans fans are saying, but we watched him play last year. He wasn't good. And the statistical production dropped in every area except games played, and he wasn't good. Could we get the 2023 version of Dalton Schultz in 2025? I think there's a couple of elements here that could lean in the favor of that happening. Number one, Nick Caley likes to work with tight ends. There's also going to be an emphasis on offensive line, and I think there's going to be an emphasis to protect the offensive line. So maybe you're trying to get rid of the ball quicker. I think that's part of the reason why they have so many slot guys. I think a lot of times if you're trying to get rid of it quick, tight end can be another option as well. And the other thing is, and this is one of Cody Stoots' favorite theories, he's in a contract year. I know that he has a third year left on his deal. He's not playing on that third year. He's not getting $11 million to play football next year, even if he does do what he did in 2023. So there's got to be a little bit of extra motivation there. I also think there's an under-the-radar chance. And I heard Jared Patterson today on Texans radio. We might take a listen to that in a sec, because I always like hearing from Jared Patterson. I think Jared Patterson is a solid guy, and he's an intriguing guy when it comes to center. Right now, he's not really getting the first team reps, but he's an intriguing guy. And there was a few interesting nuggets that he had with Mark and John that we might react to in a second. But do I think Dalton Schultz looks as good as he did in 2023? I wouldn't bet on it. It wouldn't be the most insane surprise, though. I'm not going to call on Nate Diaz for that, but it wouldn't be the most insane surprise, because it's not like he was a world beater. If he can be closer to a top 15 than a top 30 tight end, then that's good. The bar is kind of low. I'm not buying the penny stock like I am with Christian Harris, but yeah, I'm not. It wouldn't be the most shocking thing. WB on the chat, surprise Tank comes back 100%. Are you saying this year?
I'm not surprised, motherfucker.
Just kidding. I would be shocked. I don't know that Tank is ever going to be 100%. I know that apparently it wasn't as bad. I saw Aaron Wilson break it down pretty good. I know he's getting a little bit anxious and saying he could be back. I think Aaron said that, could he come back in December? I think that's crazy. Aaron's got a lot more information than me in that area. I think that's crazy when you have multiple surgeries and it's not that urgent, and you already had the injury the year before. But yes, he wasn't 100% last year. I mean, he wasn't the same guy. He wasn't the same player. So yeah, he started showing those flashes against Kansas City, but given the fact that we really didn't see the same Tank Dell and we didn't see the same production, we talk about Dalton Schultz. I mean, Tank Dell, before he went down, I mean, he was a flat out non-factor more times than he was a factor. There were multiple. There was a no catch game. There was a one catch game. There was a negative yards game. Yeah, I would be shocked if Tank Dell is what he was in early 2023. That would absolutely shock me. But not this year for sure, even getting back on the football field. Maybe next year, but no, I'm not I'm not betting on Tank Dell being 100%, because he wasn't last year, even before he got hurt, for being honest. Next surprise, Jimmy Ward being back on the team. This would be shocking. I know that DeMeco Ryans has a soft spot for Jimmy Ward. I know they've been through a lot together. Multiple coaching position upgrades, multiple position changes, multiple destinations, multiple contract extensions, all that. Jimmy Ward being on the team would completely shock me, and it would completely change the way in which we look at this Texans game. Now, I've heard some people say, when it comes to Jimmy Ward, I've heard some people say, cut him right now and get rid of him and all that. I do think there is at least a human element with DeMeco and Jimmy where they don't want to throw him on an island and make him feel alone. This might be kind of a sensitive time for Jimmy. You've been playing football 12 years. The end is probably near-ish. You're rehabbing once again. We don't know the whole situation. We don't know what went down. It just doesn't look too good for him. And quite frankly, it was kind of an uphill battle because he was rehabbing once again for, God, I've lost count of how many times Jimmy Ward has had to rehab and get hurt. And that has been, it's probably happened. There's probably been 4 or 5 IR stints over the course of the history of Jimmy Ward and DeMeco Ryans as well. But yes, Jimmy Ward being on this team, that would be an absolute shock. Playing the surprise game here on SNL. Reminder, like the damn video, subscribe to this, subscribe to SNL. It is the downtime, but business is picking up. Football season's going to be incredible. The top digital guys in the game, always on the scene, putting all of our experience at the top of the legacy media game to practice right here with you. Prime Time on the chat asked, do you think emergence of Higgins and Noel coming to the scene, do you think that plays a role as in why Tank is hinting an early comeback? No, I wouldn't say that. Look, obviously, if Tank Dell were on the roster, I don't know that they draft both of those guys. I think that's obvious. I don't think they draft both of those guys. The need at wide receiver definitely increased because of the Tank Dell injury. And quite frankly, there's kind of a snowball effect because Diggs was already probably a rental, and that just kind of increased the need. Worst case scenario for the Texans, I think, when they traded for Diggs was, okay, this is a 1-year rental, but we still have a second-year guy in Tank Dell who we believe in, and we have one of the young emerging receivers in the league in Nico Collins, and they had to kind of figure that out. I just think, man, like a guy like Tank Dell who's on social media, who's a young guy, who's had football his entire life, when you go through what he's gone through with the injuries, I mean, sometimes you just want to pump yourself up. You want to gas yourself up. And if that's even like, even if that means that he's able to bend his knee for the first time, you should feel great. That should feel like progress. And the kids Tank Dell's age, and I think I can say this because I'm very firmly a millennial. And a lot of millennials do it too, if I'm being honest. I don't want to separate myself too much. But they go gas themselves up on the internet. Sometimes they overshare. I mean, I've seen some people go on there and say some things that, okay, thanks for sharing. But any small victory that Tank Dell has is probably considered a step closer to playing. And I think there's always obviously a reaction from the fan base where they get excited when this happens. But I mean, even being able to flex your calf or something like that with everything that Tank Dell went through, I would think that's that. I don't think it's any pressure or anything extra. I think the injury speaks for itself. I think he would probably be saying this whether they were on the roster or not. Milo, you just asked one about Mechie. Trust me, that will make an appearance. Next surprise, the OL being worse than 2024. This is, look, I said this today. If Bobby Slowick were coaching this offensive line,
Damn it, Bobby,
then I think there would be a chance that perhaps they would be worse. If you're just going to leave these guys one-on-one, perhaps they would be worse. Although they're going to work together better and all that. But I think when you factor in coaching, when you factor in game plan, and when you factor in just how bad they were last year, I would be surprised if they were as bad. Now, I would be just as surprised if they were a really, really good offensive line. Their goal should be just to be an average offensive line. That's it. But being worse in 2024, yeah, that would surprise me a little bit because of what Nick Caley has done roster-wise to help CJ Stroud, what it appears they're trying to do at O-line, and just the overall emphasis. I think there's just going to be so much more attention to it. I don't want to say they got fat and happy last year, but Shaq Mason and Titus Howard were out of shape. They were out of shape. Titus Howard's coming out with Aaron Wilson and saying, yeah, I'm really focused on reviving my body and doing all this. Where the hell was that after you got that contract, my friend? Yeah, I'm trying to be a leader. Where was that? There could have been multiple leaders. You didn't have to just sit there and take the back seat. But I think the fact that there has been an emphasis, the fact that they have brought in multiple guys, the fact that they have Hardo Popovich, I just think there's going to be a little bit more urgency and a little bit more attention when it comes to the offensive line. The guys damn sure aren't coming in fat and out of shape, and there's a big emphasis. So I would be pretty surprised if the offensive line is worse. Do I think they're going to be really, really good? No. Someone asked earlier today about, Seth Payne's excitement, and shout out to Seth Payne with the offensive line. And I think you got to kind of read between the lines. I don't think Seth's saying the offensive line's great. I think Seth is a former defensive lineman, and he was kind of a lunch pail guy.
Race car.
Kind of a grinder, deceptively athletic. I think he really has like a strong belief and mentality in the trenches on the D line and on the O line. And I think that's what he's excited about. He's excited that they cared enough about the stuff that was going on with Laramie Tunsil to where they moved on from it and they were willing to take that risk. And he likes the fact that they're getting coached hard, and likes the fact that they seem to have a vision and a plan. So that's really what I think Seth's mindset is. I don't think he's sitting here saying that this is overly talented. I think he likes certain things about different guys, but I think his excitement is just the fact that it's not the BS mentality where one guy's doing his own thing, four guys are doing whatever the hell they're doing. Two of them are basically copying the lead of the guy that's just doing his own thing, and there's just complete slop. There's no accountability. I mean, the way they handled that Minnesota game was one of the most piss poor, pathetic displays during and after the game. I mean, Titus Howard went in the locker room and he was bragging that Jonathan Grenard didn't get a sack on him, despite the fact he blew stuff up, despite the fact he blew the game up and got revenge against his former team. Laramie Tunsil was blaming the referees for not guiding them through the rule book before. And he was giving quotes and then not really saying anything after when asked about it. So that was pathetic. And I think Seth, as a former player who played on the D-line on some pretty good teams, especially in Jacksonville, I think he just likes that there's an emphasis on that. So I think that's why he's excited. I don't think he's like buying that this is going to be like a elite offensive line. But I think that's his that's what he likes about the O-line. I would say that's kind of explains that. Speaking of that O-line, would I be surprised if Juice Scruggs was a starter? Third year, second round pick. They've had him at center. They've had him at guard. Now, Nick Caserio insists he's better at center than guard. He's third string right now. He's also third string at guard. And someone said it. The only thing that Kenyon Green blocked last year was Juice Scruggs' criticism. You probably say the same about Shaq Mason and Titus Howard and Laramie Tunsil. Here's my thoughts on this. I'm calling him Juice Blacklock right now. I think he's on the hot seat. Ross Blacklock, 2020 second round pick. New defensive philosophy. I know it was Lovie Smith. But after being patient, extra patient with him for 2 years in the Weaver system and then Lovie Smith's system again, although he became the head coach, They got rid of Ross Blacklock. They ended up sending him to the Minnesota Vikings. Juice Scruggs right now, he is on the hot seat of all hot seats when it comes to being on this roster. Maybe they're trying to send him a message right now. Maybe we get to training camp and all of a sudden you see Juice Scruggs and they send him a message here. Maybe they're trying to get through to him. Maybe there's some tough love. But they're not doing that with Jared Patterson. They're not really doing that with Blake Fisher. They're not doing that with the rookie Ariante Ursary. They're not doing it with Titus Howard. Titus Howard's going right to right guard. Juice Scruggs right now is on the hot seat. It is if the betting favorite, I always have that imaginary sports book, Juice Scruggs getting cut is way more likely than Juice Scruggs being a starter. At least based on what we've seen from him the last 2 years and what we've seen from what they've done with him in minicamp. So Juice Scruggs being a starter, you bet your ass I would be surprised. Look out. I think we could see a Ross Blacklock little remix coming down when it comes to that. And maybe someone wants to kick the tires on Juice Scruggs. I don't know. Juice Scruggs was one of those picks where the nerdy ass draft dudes felt like you probably could have got him later. We didn't get to see the alternate reality that we saw this year with Caserio, where he tried to make the Ursary trade and they ended up getting him anyways. But Juice Scruggs right now is third string. Right now, fluid situation. What are we? 29 days away from training camp? Right now, the Juice Blacklock thing is alive and well. Just kind of is what it is. Next one. This one's going to hurt y'all. Kind of feels like this guy's gotten turned on. There's a lot of frustration. With this guy. One of the top performers in franchise history. He has made a lot of Texans fans happy in the most intense, riveting moments. He has come through. But the last time we saw him, he was shivering his ass off on the sidelines. And he had started missing kicks, including the extra point that would have tied the game against the Chiefs after arguably, we'll hear Jared Patterson talk about this in a sec, after arguably the best drive of the season for the Texans. I thought it was. Ka'imi Fairbairn. Surprise, Ka'imi Fairbairn yipping out. In other words, we see it with kickers all the time. We saw it this year with Justin Tucker. And I'm not talking about yipping out at the massage parlor. I'm talking about on the field. Justin Tucker started missing field goals. There was talk before we even knew that he had a Deshaun-like scandal. There was talk that, man, should the Ravens cut Justin Tucker? John Harbaugh even had to answer questions about that. Speaking of the Ravens, they made some big news today, and they have an opportunity, if they listen to their franchise quarterback, to make even bigger news. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But Ka'imi Fairbairn yipping out. Just becoming one of those kickers that's missing field goals that you can't count on anymore. In minicamp, he kicked well, but he's always kicked well indoors. The outdoor thing, the cold weather thing, I think that does matter, especially if you get in the playoffs and you're having to go to Kansas City or Buffalo or Baltimore. I think that's a problem for Ka'imi Fairbairn. I think the Hawaiian in him is starting to kind of stick out a little bit, which I can relate to. I hate cold weather too. But last year, at the start of the year, there was talk about how good Fairbairn was kicking. He was making every damn field goal from 50 plus. And we saw him miss some kicks a little bit later on. The Titans game comes to mind. And, of course, the KC extra point. Would I be surprised if Fairbairn yipped out this year? I would not. It happens with kickers, like some of the best kickers of all time. They don't typically go out on their own power. I don't want to say it's an easy job. It's one of the hardest jobs. It doesn't get the credit that it deserves. There's only 32 of these guys in the league. And they can be the best kickers. And as soon as they miss one field goal, everybody thinks they suck. People don't treat kickers like they should. It's kind of like golf, where certain kicks would be good from certain distances. You got to factor in weather. There's timing. There's pressure. All that. It's hard to do. But more times than not, these guys, they don't go out on their own power. They end up yipping out. And they end up missing kicks that you couldn't have even imagined them missing. Fairbairn's shown us some clues. Does it happen indoors? I doubt it. But last year, it was a little bit crazy how they had him kicking all these 50s. He also kind of gets hurt a lot for a kicker. It's kind of crazy. His game log for a kicker is pretty surprising. We saw him miss time in 2023 when Amendola had to come in. I'll be honest. Would I bet on it? No, but I would not be surprised if Kaimi Fairbairn yipped out at all. Keep an eye on that. It happens all the time with kickers. You can go all the way down the list. Best kickers of all time. You kind of lose it. And it sticks out a lot more. You can't hide. It's all you. There's no hiding. There's no other blame. It's always the kicker's fault. So I would not be shocked. Next surprise. And this is a division thing. Surprise or not, new top-tier stars emerging in the AFC South. In other words, we know who the big stars are right now. Most of them are on the Texans. Any newcomers in the division that could end up being really big stars in the AFC South, and the first players that you mentioned when it comes to elite here. This wouldn't be a shock. As a matter of fact, I would be more surprised if this did not happen. I think there's some newcomers that we need to keep an eye on and some guys that haven't taken that next step that we need to keep an eye on. This would be my list of guys that we got to keep a close eye on. First one's Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas Jr. with a new OC/head coach, a healthy Trevor Lawrence. This guy's on the verge of being a star. He's going to be a top 2 round fantasy pick. Might even go on the back end of the first round in some drafts. This guy's very close to getting mentioned in the top 10 of wide receivers in the league. So I wouldn't be shocked by that. Tyler Warren with the Indianapolis Colts. It's crazy that the worst kept secret heading into the draft was that they wanted Tyler Warren. We laughed at it because it seemed like he was going to be TE1. He wasn't TE1. Colson Loveland goes to the Bears. And the Colts don't even have to trade up. And they get their guy, Tyler Warren. One of the more intriguing guys. What does he end up being? A lot of times in the first round, tight ends bust out. Right now, we're still on the Brock Bowers high. And what we saw last year. And that's kind of what Tyler Warren gets compared to. Would not shock me to hear us talking about Tyler Warren as a top 8 tight end in the NFL after 1 year and one of the stars in the AFC South. That would not shock me one bit. Travis Hunter, I'm not really buying. I think he can be a really good receiver. I thought he was the best receiver in this draft. I thought it was a weak wide receiver draft, though. I do think he's going to get the most attention, though. I think the star power, the attention and the star power is going to be there. He's going to dominate SportsCenter highlights. There's going to be a snap count thing up there. I think he's going to be a good player. I don't know that he's going to make like the significant impact that Thomas and Warren potentially could make. But I think the biggest star and the biggest threat to DeMeco Ryans and the Texans that is a newcomer in this division is, can anyone guess who I'm going to say? The more that I look into this guy, the more that I am very, 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 very intrigued to see what the hell he does. It ain't Cam Ward. It ain't Cam Ward at all. It's Liam Cohen, the coach of the Jags. Liam Cohen, I'm telling you, if you're excited about Nick Caley, Liam Cohen has that resume on steroids. He coached under McVay. He basically came up as a coach the whole time. He's the guy who helped get Baker Mayfield ready in less than a week and go win a game for the Rams when they were in a down year. And he goes to Tampa Bay because of that relationship with Baker Mayfield. gets the HC job. I know we've been used to laughing at the Jags, but let's keep an eye on Liam Cohen and what the hell he does. I know he had a goofy ass press conference and he got made fun of, and he's had some goofy ass moments. But the last time that a guy got that ridiculed at a press conference, his name was Nick Sirianni. And Nick Sirianni's been pretty good for the Eagles. He's been to multiple Super Bowls. He's won one, and he continues to grow as a head coach and as a guy, personality-wise. Keep an eye on Liam Cohen. And I strongly recommend reading that feature that ESPN put out. If you just need some reading material for the downtime, look out on Liam Cohen. Look, if you sleep on the Jags, go ahead and sleep. I don't blame you. It's easy to sleep on the Jags. If you sleep on the Jags, pretty strong chance you're going to be right. But as far as new top tier stars emerging in the division, say it for me, Nate.
I'm not surprised, motherfucker.
But I think Liam Cohen's the one to watch. Let's keep an eye on him. I still like Shane Steichen with the Colts. I don't know that he has the weapons. The Jags have some weapons, and we'll see what he does with Trevor Lawrence. Liam Cohen, let's keep an eye on what he does. He had a big hand in getting Baker Mayfield to Tampa Bay. That was basically what happened. It was basically an audition with the Rams when he got to Tampa Bay. And then he hasn't really looked back since. So let's keep an eye on Liam Cohen. Just respectfully, let's just look out the side. If you want to still sleep on the Jags, I'm not sitting here telling you to bet your life savings on the Jags winning the division or anything like that, but I wouldn't snooze too hard on them. Would not snooze too hard on them. Pause. Surprise or not, a Joe Mixon decline. We see this with running backs around age 30. I think Joe Mixon turns 30 a week from today, if I'm not mistaken, or does he turn 29? I think his birthday's a week from today. I've been putting together some videos. I've been brick factorying because I'm going to Arizona next week. Give me a June vacation. Very much needed. But I'm pretty sure that Joe Mixon, his birthday is, yes, the 24th. He's going to turn 29. That's typically the time where you see running backs kind of fall off. Would a Joe Mixon decline surprise you?
I'm not surprised, motherfucker.
Wouldn't shock me. I mean, we're hearing about the boot and everything with Joe Mixon. Like, I wouldn't bet against Joe Mixon, but it just happens. Sometimes it happens when you don't see it. They got to block better for him. Can't ask him to have to turn chicken-ish into chicken salad like he did last year. But I wouldn't be shocked. But I still think Joe Mixon is that dude. Sometimes that dude, it just kind of goes down. Surprise or not, playing the surprise game here on SNL. Titus Howard being the starting guard all year. Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. They seem pretty invested in it. He actually seems kind of invested and engaged. He's not trying to be the coolest guy. Seems like he's kind of been humbled. How could you not, by everything that he's gone through? Wouldn't surprise me. Does that mean I think he's going to be a really good guard? No. But on this team, in this situation, with what he has behind him, which we already talked about, Juice Scruggs. No, I wouldn't be shocked if Titus Howard was the starting guard all year. Wouldn't surprise me the least bit. Next surprise, John Mechie makes the team. That would shock me. I would be very shocked if John Mechie makes this team. I think there's still probably a team in the NFL that wants to kick the tires on John Mechie, but at this point, they're not cutting either of the rookies. They're not cutting Kirk or Collins. Watson's gotten a lot of praise. Hutchinson has 2 years left on his rookie deal, while Mechie has 1. He also plays more special teams. Watson also plays more special teams, and he's also looked better at this point. Looks like his arrow's kind of pointing up, he being Xavier Hutchinson. So I would be surprised if John Mechie makes this team. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what the path is. There's an embarrassment. I don't want to say embarrassment of riches at slot, but there's some very, very good possibilities at slot receiver. I don't even know that Mechie is above Wang right now. And that's another guy that I think gets some unfair smoke in the chat because y'all like to blame him for Tank Dell, which, But I would be shocked if John Mechie makes this team. I would be very surprised. And I would there could even be a move before camp. But it would be a 100% shock. I do think the tires probably get kicked on John Mechie somewhere, but I don't see him on this team. I think you could maybe get something for him. I do think maybe you could get the John Mechie equivalent at another position for him. Oh, you got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for Kenyon Green. Ross Blacklock, who we just mentioned, you got something for him. So I think that you could probably get something. But as far as being on this team, I think that ship is kind of sailed. I think that's kind of done. And I don't know how Berrios fits either. We haven't seen him. I know he did a Texans radio interview the other day, which Jared Patterson did one today, and we'll look at that. But yeah, I would be very, very shocked if John Mechie made the team. It's just, I don't even know what that would look like. There's not much more value outside of him being a receiver. And there's a lot of guys on this team that are just better than him at receiver. Obviously kind of fell behind early on in his career for obvious reasons. Also had a torn ACL when they drafted him. It happens. What did Nick Casario say? 50% draft picks? That's the percentage. You hit on Tank. I mean, Tank got hurt. That's not their fault. Although that was kind of a question mark, but you hit on that. You hit on Nico. And then we'll see what happens with Higgins and Noel. But they've done a good job drafting receivers. Sometimes it just be like that. It just happens. And sometimes a change of scenery helps. It probably helped John Mechie. For sure. So I don't know what they could get for him. Cebu's asking, what would you like them to get for Mechie, a backup tight end? I don't know. I mean, just a position of need and someone who's not going to make a roster. Something like that. I don't know who would like John Mechie. Y'all are so mean to Jared William. So mean. Kevin asked, will you get your Colt reporter friend to come on sometime and talk when camp starts? You're talking about Kevin Bowen? Yeah, Kevin Bowen's one of the best guys out there in Indianapolis. He does his thing. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk to him. I talk to him all the time. He's the morning host out there. He does his thing. So yeah, we'll talk to him when the season comes around, hear what he's got to say. I don't think he's overly optimistic in the squad, but I mean the Colts are, I think, 4 games worse than the Texans the last 2 years with their quarterback play. I think Shane Steichen's actually done a good job. I don't know what more you would really want him to do at this point. I mean, if they catch the ball against the Texans, he has 1 division title and DeMeco has 1 division title. And that one would have been with Gardner Minshew. So sometimes you can't get a quarterback. Much as we talk about CJ Stroud, dissect that situation, God, it could be a lot worse. You don't have to look far to see that. You can look at the other 3 teams in the division, to be honest. And I don't look at Cam Ward as like a big threat. I was talking to Everett Greelings, who just became the head of PR over there for the Titans. He was with the Texans the last few years. He's a Cam Ward believer. Obviously, he's got to be, but I don't see it. I told him good luck leading the search for a quarterback in 3 years and 2 coaching searches in the next 5. I think he'll do a great job. I think he will too. I think he will. He's a good thing. I do have a theory though about. I'm gonna actually save this because this is a crazy Cody Stutes thing. I don't want to take his opinion. I will put it on the prep sheet though. But we'll get into this tomorrow. We'll get into this tomorrow on SNL. It's a slow time, but I'm going to put this on here. So tune into SNL tomorrow at 4, and we'll talk about this. But it's an interesting theory about them Tennessee Titans, for sure. Let's hear from Jared Patterson. We don't hear from him very much. He was on Texans radio with Mark Vandermeer and John Harris. And these interviews, I love these dudes. Sometimes they can be kind of hit or miss, depending on who they get. But we don't hear from Jared Patterson quite often. And I thought he said some pretty interesting things. He's been center too so far for the Texans. But this was my favorite Jared Patterson story that I've told a couple times here on the stream. So after one of the games where the Texans lost, Jared Patterson had just returned to the starting lineup, and I'd never talked to him. So I was going to go over and talk to him. His locker's like in the far corner, and just kind of wanted to get a scouting report because sometimes these guys are pissed off, sometimes they're not. You still go talk to them, but you kind of just want to know what the scouting report is on what the guy's like. Like, is he a bad interview? Is he a bad quote? What is he? And I asked Aaron Wilson, and I said, hey, you've talked to Jared Patterson before. What's he like? And Aaron just said in like the Aaron Wilson, like, wait, he wasn't talking crap or anything, but it's almost like when DeMeco and Nick Caserio talk about the new OC. They're talking about Nick Caley. Nick. And they basically say,
damn it, Bobby.
Because they say they don't want their new OC to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's like, dude, you're talking about Bobby Slowick, obviously. But Aaron Wilson, I asked him about Jared Patterson. He goes, yeah. Y'all hear Aaron talking. Yeah, he's cool. He's an adult. And he just said it in like the Aaron Wilson, we're like, yeah, he's an adult. I was like, oh, okay. Well, that must mean that some of these offensive linemen are not adults. And that was what Aaron said. He went over there, and there was a lot of accountability with Jared Patterson. I thought he had some interesting nugs. I'll start on the sweet spot of this with Patterson with Texans radio. Let's hear from the center, and we'll react throughout to kind of some of the stuff that sticks out. Right now, he's been center too, clearly ahead of Juice Scruggs. But there were some interesting nugs here from Jared Patterson that we'll pick up here live in the locker room following the surprise game.
Now to perform.
What's the difference in you, Jarrett, going into year 3 versus being a rookie? What's kind of the biggest difference? I know we haven't gotten into year 3, but just having played 2 years, how different are you now than you were when you started that first week against Baltimore?
As healthy as I've been in 5 years.
Really?
2020,
Listen,
COVID. I was healthy, but obviously no activity, couldn't work any football. 2021, I had 2 foot surgeries.
2 foot surgeries in 2021.
2022, my senior year spring, I tore my pec, had pec surgery, had some
Torn pec.
foot injuries the off season.
Yep.
Kind of lingered.
More injuries.
In 23, I had a hip injury at the Senior Bowl.
Hip.
Last year, I was healthy, but I still had my leg was still bothering me a little bit from the injury year before.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, but
This guy gets hurt a lot.
this year is the best I felt in the offseason. Right. Nothing lingering from the year before. Nothing I just, pay extra attention to in the offseason program. Like, I just felt like myself finally. It's been a while, but it felt good.
So instead of rehabbing, you're stacking days.
Exactly. Yes. I can work on football stuff and not have to worry about
from
this muscle's weak, or I got to work on this and mobility, etc. So,
yeah. Tell us about Cole Popovich, how he's handling things. He's the head man on the offensive line now. He's been here, but now he's the guy.
Yeah. Now, Pop's solid. We have a lot of respect for him, and obviously kind of building a relationship with him the past 2 years. I wasn't really surprised when he got the job because I know what type of coach he is and what type of guy he is and how much care he has. So he has a lot of respect from all of us in the line room. He respects us, and about him, like, it's just work.
I always think it's interesting when they talk about the new coach, and it kind of goes back to the way they talk about Bobby. He says he has a lot of care. And when you compliment this guy, it almost feels like you're saying what the previous guy didn't have. Maybe that's the petty media type in me, but that's just kind of how I look at it.
We're not going to worry about obviously results are important, but it's, are you doing the technique? Are you playing hard? All those little things. That's what really matters at the end of the day. Result of the play is the result of the play, but how's that play look? It could be, a 99-yard touchdown run. Did you do your job though?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
what really matters to them.
So it's one of those, don't focus on the outcome as much as what's right in front of you, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay.
And I think that's what's really important to O-line play. Sometimes
No, it's Jeff Van Gundy, Vandy. Don't ignore in victory what you would not otherwise ignore in defeat. Come on, man. You had a good chance to drop a Houston gym there and you screwed it up, Vandy.
you get lost, you could run the ball 20 times for 150 yards. Well, you got ripped off a 90-yard touchdown. You got, you're only averaging 3 yards a carry the other time. That doesn't, can't look at that stuff.
So in the playoff game against Kansas City, that was one of the things that you guys did extremely well. Like after Joe scored that touchdown, I remember looking up at the scoreboard and it was like, we went for
Best drive of the
150
year.
yards. They have like 18.
That was an awesome drive. That might have been our best drive of the
It was
season last
incredible.
year.
It was an incredible drive, but you guys were really running the ball exceptionally well that day against a pretty good front, a Chris Jones front. What was kind of the key in that game, Jarrett, that you think can carry over? I know there's a lot of different pieces up front, and it's a different scheme. We'll ask about that. But what do you think you can carry forward from that you learned in that game about the individuals up front that you can carry forward into 2025?
It's a lot of different individuals.
I'll say like that week and the 2 weeks prior.
Yeah, isn't that kind of weird? Because it's different individuals, right? Like Shaq's gone. I forgot who was in. Had Juice already gotten benched? So Shaq's gone. He started that game, Tunsil. So I don't know what you can learn about the individuals up front that aren't here.
We kind of had like a similar run game plan. A lot of that was due, Pop. That's he wanted to, kind of go along with that. I think that's the bodies we have in the room are great for what we were trying to do then.
Yeah.
And it just shows that we have the ability to run the ball. Now, obviously, we've got to be a lot more consistent, and everyone's got to be locked into the communication and how we're going to run the play. But, yeah, I mean, that was, like you're talking about, that was probably one of our top 5, top 3, if not the best drive we had all last season.
I mean,
Unfortunately, we didn't win the game, but
Yeah.
that kind of shows that we got the guys for sure.
How
Top
is
two
and how
drives
will be
last
the
year were both in
dynamic in the
Kansas
room?
City, in my opinion. That drive was number 1 by far, and it was a big answer. Should have tied the game before Fairbairn yipped it out. And then the one in Kansas City in the first half when CJ had throws to everyone, including, I think he had a corner throw to Collins on, I think, a third down. He had a third down toss to Dell. And then he had another dime. And then he had the rollout and buy time and the wide open touchdown to Dalton Schultz. Might have been his first of the year, if I'm not mistaken. But those were easily the 2 best drives of the year. Top 5, my ass. Top 2 and not 2. But both of the top drives happened in Kansas City.
The new guys. You got Lakin, you got Cam, you got all these new guys in addition to you guys who have been here. So how is it different so far? What can you tell the fans about that?
Yeah, so we got some like really young guys. We also got some really, vets.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting, talking with older guys like Cam, Trent, and Lank, just like how much ball they've played and all the little insights about, I guess D-line play, whether it's run game, pass game, like all those guys have been a tremendous help. And they've been great as well. Like they're super solid, all super great guys to get along with, and I'm excited to have them be able to play next to them this year.
Okay, we got mini camps this week, family barbecue Thursday, and you guys are out of here. What's the Jarrett Patterson plan for the offseason?
Man,
You getting away? You going home? You staying here?
I might go home, see family for a couple of days back in California, but after that, it's getting ready for camp. In my opinion, like I'm always the opinion like I like to do vacation early, right after the season ends. So after that, I can just focus on just getting better, because for me, every day is an opportunity to get better. And once the season starts, it's full go. I think you got to be 100% locked in on that.
How much do you need that time right after the season? Because you play so many games, you play playoff games, your body needs to rest. How much do you need that time to get your body kind of just back to just livable?
That's a good question, because the year before I was hurt, so my off season kind of started earlier.
Sure.
But yeah, this year after playing through the whole season and getting through all the practices and games, I definitely felt like I needed like at least like 2 weeks to really the week after the KC game, I tried coming in here lifting. I'm like, man, I feel terrible. I'm like, I should not be doing this right now.
Yeah.
So I gave myself like another week off.
Yeah.
Lifted, hit like a vacation for a little bit, and I came back. I felt good. But yeah, it was definitely crucial to get that time off.
Yeah.
So there you go, Jared Patterson. We don't hear from him very much. Shout out to Jared Patterson. My goodness, I think he's safe on this team. There's no doubt he's safe on this team. Juice Scruggs struggle bus for Juice. We don't know. Again. There you go. I mean, Spider-Man, there you are. 90 and 70, the same thing. Who knew? Juice is in trouble. Mechie's in trouble too. But yeah, good hearing from Jared Patterson. God, he gets hurt a lot. That is a lot of injuries. Kind of makes you wonder, but we'll see what it looks like. It's going to be fun. The surprise game here on the Locker Room tomorrow. Cody Stutes has a very, very, very nightmarish. Yes, I did make a pick. You are darn right about it. He has a very nightmarish scenario. The worst things that could go down this year with the Texans. We'll take our eyes off our own paper tomorrow on SNL as camp does approach, which camp will be, 29 days? Yeah, 29 days, 4 weeks. 4 weeks and change. Gonna be fun, man. I'm really, really excited about it. Can't wait to hit the road, do our thing, see the peeps. My favorite thing. Me and Cody, we are locked in during camp. You won't get better details than you can get here. I can promise you that. 100,000%. The Ravens. So I teased the Ravens. Mike, I appreciate you for holding me accountable for paying off on the tease. That is a solid radio fundamental. So Lamar Jackson, he talked about having a chip on his shoulder, and he is pushing for his former college teammate, Jair Alexander, to join the Baltimore Ravens. This is always what happens with the Ravens, isn't it? Doesn't it just always seem like if there's someone on the streets that's a good player that someone else gets rid of, even in the draft, like whenever a good player gets passed on, it's just like, oh, well, he's going to end up a Raven. He's going to end up being a good player. Kyle Hamilton, the Texans pass on Kyle Hamilton, and boom, he's a Baltimore Raven. Tyler Linderbaum, the Texans also passed on Tyler Linderbaum after they passed on Kyle Hamilton. He's a Baltimore Raven. Both of them Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber players already. Hell, we go back to the 2018 draft. Mark Andrews and Orlando Brown in the same draft. The Texans, they took Justin Reed. They also got Martinez Rankin instead of both of those guys. And now the Ravens are pushing for Jair Alexander. It would be a hell of a move for them. And if Lamar Jackson is publicly asking for it, you got to think it's what's going to happen, right? I mean, this is his college teammate. They already got a really good defense. They add a guy who, let's just be serious, a couple years ago we were talking about as one of the best corners in the league, kind of has that Ravens attitude. It's a culture that is equipped to take on a strong personality. Now, I'm not sitting here saying the Texans should be in on Alexander. They're fine when it comes to their top two corners. But when you talk about, and I think I heard that DeMeco Ryan sent John Harbaugh a card over the weekend because the Ravens are the Texans' daddies. John Harbaugh is DeMeco's daddy. He's 3-0 against him and 3 pretty embarrassing losses. So DeMeco sent him a Father's Day card because he kind of owns him. John Harbaugh does at the moment. Now, DeMeco did get cards, though, from the Titans, the Colts, and the Jags. So that's 3-1. But the Ravens, it's a tough one. And Jair Alexander, that makes that a little bit more difficult. So going to be wild. And it seems like it kind of feels inevitable when he is just flat out asking for it. So life comes at you fast. It makes sense, but it makes that hurdle that the Texans got to overcome, beating the Kansas Cities and the Baltimores, makes it that much more difficult. Appreciate y'all for joining me here in the locker room. Subscribe, like, right along. Remember, like the damn video. And always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Tomorrow on SNL, we got myself, Cody Stutes, a crazy scenario that just makes way too much sense. My goodness, this one might hurt, or it might be awesome. Might be a combination of both. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Hit it, Griffin.
YouTube, we got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways, if it's up, then it's up, we number one, you don't need to try your luck, Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.